when the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality. Open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Hello, book clubbers! It's another week, and we're back to talk Bonehunters. So excited about these chapters this week. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm here with Lana Bashinsky. Hi, Lana.
Hello, good morning. Great chapters. Ooh, it's just great chapters. Great chapters.
Can I tell you something this week, Lana?
Please do.
Words cannot describe. Maybe Erikson could conjure a sentence that could sum up how mortified I've been this week with the response to me mentioning the thing about the dancing at the beginning of the show.
What?
People being like, oh no, I just thought you had terrible rhythm, Jeff. The thing I said last week about how our recording software does things off just slightly, so it looks like I'm completely off the beat.
You're just living a syncopated life.
Utterly mortified. Utterly. I'm a person who loves to dance, and I will dance at the drop of a hat. I don't care. But I also feel like I'm pretty decent at it. And the fact that I've been broadcasting for weeks to the entire world, just week after week after week of people just being like, "Woof, that guy, oh boy."
I love that people would think about that because of the nature of how we do this. I feel like I intuitively would be like, yeah, you ever try and sing happy birthday to somebody on a Zoom call? It's horrible because everybody's latencies are different. It's bad. I feel like I would just be like, yeah, that's a weird online thing. That is really funny.
But you know what? That's how important it is to me that we dance at the beginning of the show. And that's, you can't fight the wonderful theme song by your delightful sister. So I'm not, part of me was like, I can never do this again. But no, it's too important.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm just going to have to mention it every week. That, like, please, no.
I'm not a bad dancer, actually.
Pathetic.
It's the app, actually.
It's so pathetic of me that I even care, but there it is.
It is
my fragile little dancer ego, is being harmed.
I fully understand. It's like so resonant in a particular way that I cannot. My memory is awful in a particular way that in this moment, I wish I could be like, here's an anecdote where I experienced the exact same feeling. But I don't have one, but I do. I know it. And I see you. Well, I see you, Jeff Kanata.
It's that thing where I go, oh, everybody just assumes that it's a little, the recording is the issue. And then I say something out loud and people are like, oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Cause I always just assumed you were bad. And I go, oh no. Anyway, it's a delight. And we're here to dance like nobody's watching and to read like some people are. And we have awesome chapters to get to this week, but we always start the show with a non-spoiler topic. Sometimes it could be about dancing. It's not this week, but we will talk about the stuff that you want us to talk about. That's what we love to talk about. Yeah. You can always email us suggestions for non-spoiler topics at dlcfeedback@gmail.com or post them either as a comment on the YouTube post or in our Discord, which is 5x5DLC on Discord. This week, we got one from Alex Banks from Books with Banks. Alex writes, good afternoon. Love the latest episode on Bonehunters. Your comments got me thinking about a potential spoiler-free topic for next week. Has your reading of Erikson's books changed anything about how you view the world? Would either of you say you've learned any lessons from reading the series so far? I love the idea that fantasy and sci-fi can teach us so much about ourselves and others in the world around us. So I'm always curious to hear about which ways, if any, Erikson has educated or influenced you. Thanks, and keep up the awesome book club work. Thank you, Alex. Love this topic, Lana.
Yes.
Certainly we have mentioned many, many times and often in our the end of the show, our favorite sections that we read out loud, how eloquent Erikson is about expressing these very resonant ideas and philosophies about kindness, compassion, humanity.
Mm-hmm.
What is your response to Alex's question?
First of all, great question. It's tough to like put into words what I feel like I've learned. I feel like it's something that I would have to like really sit and like thoughtfully we'd like debrief about the book, but like about this specific like my personal learnings from any given book, I would have to really take time to debrief and think about that to feel like yes, this is definitively what I've learned from these books. And I also think that if I read these books earlier in my life, 1,000,000%, I'd be able to be like, these are the things that I have learned. But
Right.
as it is, I feel like it's more something that I feel like I have gained than I have explicitly learned, and that there is these central themes that you talk about, or that you mentioned, compassion being like a massive one, particularly in how the world sort of feels right now, being like so resonant and like having words to talk about that or hearing somebody talk about it in this not related to the world way that feels so resonant. It feels like a gift to be able to read somebody who's sort of putting words to feelings that I don't necessarily process or talk about that much because I'm at work a lot and it's not like we're talking that much about like, hey, any deep fears about the state of society? Like we're trying to make video games. But I'll probably like loop back around to like what I've learned after I hear your answer. But it is that feeling of gaining like these highlighted sections I definitely have returned to and just read them when I'm feeling a particular way. Like the
Yeah.
things that we highlighted about compassion, the things that we've highlighted about religion, the things that we've highlighted about that feel like capitalism. Going back and giving those a second, third read, just in the highlight section of the book has been like, yeah, that was really so well said and feels like how I feel about these things. So
Yeah.
that's like something I feel like I've gained is the language surrounding these things.
Yeah. The language to articulate it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the reinforcement of those notions that you kind of feel at a deep level, and to have a piece of art sort of corroborate a feeling that you already have is I think reassuring and
Yes.
inspiring in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I've certainly learned volumes about storytelling.
Yes.
That in and of itself is like, this is a masterclass in watching someone sort of rewrite the rules of how you can tell a story and what's important in a story. And I think it's incredibly inspiring to me as someone who aspires to be a storyteller. And the notion, so it works on two levels for me, right? Because the storytelling in and of itself and the substance of what's being told, where every single character, no matter how small, no matter how large, every single faction, every single side of the tale is motivated, is given reasons to do what it does, and is given equal weight in sort of its flaws and motivations. The fact that we talk about this a lot on the show is that in Malazan, there doesn't, even the thing that appears to be pure evil, you find some compassion for. You find this
Mm-hmm.
central core motivating factor that you can relate to and understand. And that to me is incredibly powerful from a storytelling perspective, but a life perspective. One of the things my wife likes to say is that there's two sides to every story. And I mean, Erikson's work is testament to that, right? The notion that you can have the tale itself dealing with both sides of a conflict or many sides of a conflict, and you have equal sympathy for the motivating factors behind all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But also the fact that even the darkest, most demented, horrific elements of this story come from a place of pain or empathy. Like you as the reader gain empathy for it, is powerful from a storytelling perspective for me, but also in life. Like that rings true to me in life, that we can judge others and feel like, oh, they are only one thing, but nobody's only one thing.
Yeah.
And that to me is the biggest takeaway so far I've had from reading this work.
I love that takeaway. Absolutely. Both from like the practical perspective of like, you know, every chapter is a short story in and of itself. Like there's so many pieces that's like, oh, that's so smart. And it feels so good to read. And I am seeing,
Yeah.
Like glimpses of the Matrix between like the writing. When we talk about it, especially because you're so into writing, I love talking about the craft of what's happening with when we have gotten to talk to Steven. Love that. Big learnings there.
Yeah.
But I love that you pulled empathy specifically and history. Like why things came to be the way they are is not like an arbitrary thing, but something that is like generational and like born from pain or trauma or just like lack of knowledge about something turning into ritual, turning into just like what this society does. Like I love thinking about why things are the way they are. And I definitely have thought that like sometimes after we do a recording, I always go to work, little frustration points at work being like, you know what, we actually are trying to do the same thing here and trying to understand where you're coming from. It has been a reminder for me to be like, what's your deal? Let's figure out. Let's get to the heart of why you're feeling the way you are. So
where did the jagut hurt you?
Exactly. Yeah. Is your pain more like I could change your Molly? Like,
yeah. Anyway, wonderful question. Thank you, Alex, for sending that in. Again, if you'd like to have your question wrestled with on the show, we love getting those. dlcfeedback@gmail.com. All right, as we mentioned, 2 killer chapters this week. So let's start. Spoilers right now for chapters 15 and 16 of The Bonehunters. We start outside of Dujek's tent. Dujek one arm, not doing well. Got the blue. What's it called? The blue tongue.
Yeah, blue tongue. The plague.
Not good.
Seems bad. It's also like this is his tent. Oh no, it's the medical tent.
Yeah.
Ganoz
is still pretending to be Captain Kindly. Gets access. Meets this new character, Natto Boyle. Who is picking his teeth with the bone of a fish.
Yeah, for a dude who's like picked his teeth so much that his gums are receding, the description of his teeth being like fuzzy green, I was like, I'm like
skeletal.
Yeah. Ooh.
Great instant evocative characterization for Natto
on a
Boyle.
Little power trip. So he's like he's a nasty little guy, but he's also the foremost healer who is available to the host right now, and he's just guarding the door, being like, effectively being like, what's the password?
Right. But once Ganoz gets in, he sees that Dujek is in a real bad way. Surprised he's even still alive. Pained breathing. He's just like, it's just so powerfully described. I'm like, oh, it's a little foul. And then he encounters this other plague-ridden woman, Fist Rythe Bude. Who basically is like, none of us are getting out of here alive. In fact, could you please burn my body, in the cremation custom of my people, and fill my lungs with oil so they explode, releasing my soul. I was like, oh man.
And she's also like, hey, why would you come in here? And he's like, it's me, Captain Kindly. And she's like, no, it's not.
Right. I worked with Captain Kindly, sir. I knew Captain Kindly, and you're no Captain Kindly. Yeah, so she's totally on to him, and he's like, Ixnay on the aim day.
Mhm. This whole scene in here, just before you leave, Dujek, it is such an interesting, speaking of like things we've learned, what an interesting choice to have Dujek be this badass in the background. And then like first time we've seen him in so long, and he's like, is he dead? No.
Yeah.
Crazy. It was very shocking.
I agree. And obviously we find out his fate in here, and it's just like, what an ignominious end for Dujek.
Crazy.
Yeah. But also, he just like charged into this temple with his troops where the plague was. Not the smartest move, old Dujek.
Yeah.
Yes. So then Ganoz is like, okay, I'm dealing with this plague situation. And and Hirschel's like, oh, are you gonna bring me with you? And he's like, not you, that guy. And he's like picking a stick, like, me.
I just love that he's like, he charged into the temple, and now look at everything that's happened. That's brutal. Anyway, time to charge into the temple.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Only an idiot would do that. All right, let's do that. Yeah. Very funny.
Yeah, very funny. And picking this guy who is described so disgustingly, doesn't have the plague, but is still gross. As it I love it because it seems immediately like punishment for this dude.
Mm-hmm.
But then we see,
he's got a plan.
Yep.
He's got a plan. Anyway, so Perrin is sort of in charge of the Malazan 5th at this point, and he's like, we're going to march. Just give them something to do. These guys don't have anything to do. Like, just tell them we're marching. I don't even care where we're going. Just, we're going somewhere.
We're marching in all of your armor. Put everything on your body. It's going to take days.
It's just busy work. It's just like, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. Come on, let's do this. Okay, so and then we shoot over to a new scene with a new character, and what a cool reveal this is. We meet Quick Ben's sister.
Yo, I was immediately like, did we know Quick Ben had a sister? Maybe. I don't know. My memory's so bad, but we lost one sister, and now we get another sister.
Yeah, like within the span of just a couple of chapters, we found out that Whiskey Jack had a sister and Quick Ben had a sister.
Mm-hmm.
And how we learn about her sister, or this sort of flashback reminiscing that she does about their youthful rivalry, so to speak, where Quick Ben Adifon Delat was this kind of mischievous boy, young boy who was already sort of into weird magics.
My impression of like the level of mischief was that he terrorized the whole town by like mental torture, physical torture. He gave them all like crazy nightmares or something.
Yeah, I think he just gave everybody horrible nightmares because he thought it was hilarious.
And then he scampered away as fast as he could, just like knowing his sister was going to catch him, just like already bolted. Hilarious. Dude.
It's awesome to have, a whatever he was, 6-7-year-old kid, as a father of a 7-year-old boy right now, and knowing how, Dennis the Menace he can be at any given time, to have that, but like destined to grow up to be the most powerful wizard in the world. He's like already got wizard powers, he's like, oh, that's not a good combo, and we see how that plays out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like taking bits of fingernails and teeth and bones and constructing little voodoo dolls for every member of his family, and
even the babies. Yeah. And then the thing that I think is so fascinating is like through, what's her name?
Torhaval Delat? Torah Haval? His sister, you mean?
Yeah.
Torahaval?
Travel. Yes. Yep, that's it.
I call her Tora. Old Tora.
Oh, old Tora.
Yeah.
To have her be like, even then he was evil. And
Yeah.
at first you're like, oh,
Yeah.
is he like I know he's like up to mischief, but like maybe he's a bad guy kind of thing. And then it's like, oh no, he was like a little brother.
Yes, exactly.
And you were like a teenager, and so you're like, he's evil. He was mean to us. And it's like, yeah,
I hate him. He's the devil. Yeah.
That's my read on it. Maybe that's like me being naive about her.
No,
like,
I think it's true because I think we learned that they really do have love for each other. You know, there's this like rivalry almost, or a deep-seated contention built from growing up and getting on each other's nerves. But obviously, like there's love. And I think there's love from her direction as well.
It is buried pretty deep. Quick, Ben, jumping ahead a bit. He gets out of there pretty quick.
Yeah, it's true.
True. It's not like a true love. That love is deep.
Yeah, he knows what would happen if they actually met face to face.
It's more of a magical bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we have, she kind of is reminiscing about this old time, but in the present, she is with Bridthok, who's like, hey, Shaik is being reborn again. And also Poliel, the goddess of plagues and ickiness, wants to see us. Which, by the way, I'm going to be busy for that meeting. That's not a meeting I'm going.
Look,
the plague goddess needs you in her office at 2:00. I'm like,
you can pick any.
I got a dentist appointment I need to get to.
You can pick any god or goddess, and you pick this one. And then they're like, she's seeking a new lover. What happens to her lovers? Well, they die almost instantly. A terrible, disgusting death.
Yeah.
But she loves it.
Yeah, she loves it. And she don't care. She doesn't care who she loves as long as they end up dying. But now she's evidently she's taken the crippled god as her lover.
Yes. Well, they said two things. So she's like coupled. She's partnered with the crippled god, and it seemed like a romantic pairing, but also obviously in the god wars. But she had some other mortal being that they mention as
right.
He's almost dead, and she wants to see us, and maybe those two things are related.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
And there's this wonderful moment at the end of the scene where Torahaval is remembering about how she nurtured and reassured Quick Ben when he was a little kid, because he was having a nightmare. He was having this nightmare where he was dead, but he was still trapped on the planet and trapped in the living world. And she says he forgot how to live, which is such a haunting notion, I thought.
I love the way it was framed too, where she was like, the way that he had approached her felt weird when she was helping him through that. And he's like, I just felt like I had this dream and I had a question. There was something that I couldn't answer. And she was like, well, I guess we'll never know what that question is, but I bet it's the question that what else would a dead person forget how to do? I just I loved how that got built up. Cool.
Then we shoot right over to Quick Ben himself with Kalam and Fiddler, and this long-awaited, much anticipated, much built up, finally meeting between Bottle and Quick Ben, which I love how this plays out. This is such an awesome scene. But I also love how Erikson is never afraid to make his most popular, his most
powerful,
most heroic characters into just jerks sometimes, you know?
I loved the continuation from Toraval. I have to look at it before.
Old Tora D.
Old Tora D.
Yeah.
And like talking about her youthful relationship with Quick Ben, and then coming here, and it feels like schoolyard bully is taking the nerd kid and being like, shut up, sit down, help us with our homework. There's like a bit of a what you want the sit down kind of vibe to it, that I don't know if it's just because that happened to be how it's written, or if it was like a carryover of that younger brother energy from it, but it
Yeah.
read that way to me, especially because it's not Quick Ben being like, welcome.
Yeah,
I'm amazing.
He's like,
can you look at these dolls?
There's a funny, my read on it is like, Quick Ben has been the best of the best for a long time, and everybody knows it. And he worked really hard to get there, you know?
Yeah.
And then here comes this young whippersnapper who's just awesome at everything also, and kind of knows everything Quick Ben does at a younger age. And he's like,
the worst.
Yeah.
But he does. I do need help with my homework.
But also, like, tell me what I did wrong. Yeah. It's so good. And I love this ritual. This ritual is so cool, where they're like doing these little dolls, and you know, there's all this stuff to be read from it. It's almost kind of part influencing and part reading the tea leaves. You know, it's part like divination and part, you know, conjuration. And
like like the tactile nature of it, like, okay, they show up and they have all these dolls, but in the previous flashback we saw how to make these things, and it's like they've had to craft these things to be a particular way to get here. Then Bottle like taking a look at things and, you know, touching one of the dolls and being like, wires, bougie dolls. Is like,
wish I could afford wires.
Yeah. Anyway, so they sit down to have this conversation with Kalam just kind of there and like tense, like bodyguard for Quick Ben, and Quick Ben being like, so I've heard you have some skills, and Fiddler being like, this is my boy.
Yeah.
And I
told you, he's awesome.
And Bottle can't even like stop himself from doing magic. It's like, so he's talking about it being like intuitive, not intuitive or whatever, but it's almost like a distraction for him, where he's like, we're having a conversation. Whoa, look at the shadow on that one. Yeah. So the dolls are set up, and each of them represent different pieces, but they don't. To Bottle, he sees like, well, what's she doing? And Quick Ben's like, I did not know that was a she. I just knew it was something to something. So everybody who's not Bottle just sees like, well, we have these things, we know they're important, we don't know why, but Bottle can see, this is a girl, they're important to you, a family member, this is somebody who's in a cloak, they're gonna do something. This is my puppy dog, maybe? Or no, they like take one and put it on all fours and do something differently with it.
Oh yeah. Put Shadow Throne on all fours and like twist them around. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
And then he like falls asleep. Which is really funny, and Quick Ben's like, uh-oh, that's not good. He's been half asleep the whole time. The aerosol are sort of like using him, which is, I thought was a really cool moment too.
Yeah. Which I was like, I guess it's interesting because they're all seeing things that others can't see, and they describe it so matter-of-factly, but I'm like, but I'm more like the Fiddler or Kalam, where I'm like, but I can't see that. What does it mean?
Yeah.
Tell me.
It's awesome. And they're all just sitting around like, play with my action figures. You know?
Yeah. And then Quick Ben does his thing that we saw once from Quick Ben's perspective, where he went to go see Shadow Throne and then got yanked out before Shadow Throne could get him. And then this time we see it in the beforehand, like setting up some device. Kalam stabs his dagger into the sand. Quick Ben ties threads around it that I guess are attached to him, that are attached to magic. And then he also sort of goes to sleep, and that he's left his mortal being into the Warrens to go talk face to face with Shadow Throne.
I love that he stabs his Kalam stabs his knife, and he's like, "Don't use the autotral one, moron."
Yeah,
you we're doing magic. Don't use the magic negating weapon.
Such a great little moment.
It's so smart, you know, and
like a reminder. Oh yeah, he has an autotral like dagger. I forgot about that. Yeah,
so rad. And the fact that Erikson remembers, and like, it's just a chef's kiss.
Yeah.
But also, I absolutely love the tension, which works as a pun here, but the real tension that is established of like, we're tying these to the sword. When they go taut, you have to pull me out.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they move so slowly that you don't even realize they've gone taut. That to me, it's like out of a horror movie. It's like the thing slowly moving and you don't even realize that the noose is around your neck until it is. And this idea of like, you got to watch it. You can't blink because it'll pull taut and I'll be completely screwed. And you got to yank it out and yank me out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a rad physical thing that it just feels, man, it's just a neat idea.
It's a neat idea. And I can picture, I can continually picture the cinematography of that moment.
Yeah.
And the tension of just like looking at something not changing and hoping it doesn't, but expecting it to change.
Yeah.
Ah.
So cool. Also, the little moment between those two that we didn't talk about was that it cuts over slightly to Absalar, who's like laying on this boulder, like listening to it. And she's like, well, I guess I got to murder somebody now.
Well, actually, she goes,
now's the time.
Time to dance.
Time to dance. Yeah. Shadow dance.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also this wonderful tension there where it's like, uh-oh. And Fiddler also voices his bad feeling, which is a classic Fiddler move because Fiddler's bad feelings tend to be,
meaningful,
spot on. Yeah. So he's like, okay, I'm going, and he bamfs into the shadow realm. Then we hop over back to Gnos, who is also doing some magic-y stuff, moving through this incredibly thick wall at the city of Gdanisbad.
Mm-hmm.
Gdanisban. 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 I said it. I did it. I nailed it. They are they're moving through this city and they encounter a character I didn't think we'd ever see again. The
I
girl
know
that Fiddler and Kalam and Absalar had saved in that moment way back in, I think, book 2, right?
Mm-hmm. Book 2. Book 2.
Yeah, I think it was Dead House Gates, right?
Yeah.
When they're moving during the Whirlwind Rebellion, that girl that they save, now she has become the chosen of Soliel, sister of Poliel. The healing is the opposite, the two sides of the same coin.
Two sides of the same coin, but interesting instantly visually being like, this is the healing one. She's like, the girl is a total waif. She's has no clothes on. She's just nude in the streets. And she sees them and is like, Malazans.
Yeah.
It's been a minute, but what's up? You saved my ass. Sorry.
It's fine.
Which is like, based upon the conversations that are to come later, interesting depiction of the chosen one of this goddess, where you'd be like, oh, that sounds like a nice goddess, but you're still treated like Garbo. Interesting.
Oh, I totally love how Soliel, the goddess of healing, and everyone hates her. It's such a cool, it's classic Erikson. Like everything in his imaginative world seems to defy expectation. It is always in conversation, I think, with our expectation of what that is. It reminds me of the Tisti Dur, where it's like darkness is goodness and light is evil. He's always flipping things on their head. And I think this is another example of that, where Soliel, the healing goddess, which we would always assume is Gaia, pure goodness and happy joy, rainbows and butterflies, is a total B. And everybody's like, she turns her back on everyone. She's nowhere to be found. She has the power to heal everything and she doesn't do anything. We hate her. Such a cool, it's always so interesting. There's always more sophisticated than you expect, or I expect, I should say.
And it's I don't even think it's like extrapolation necessarily, but like it's like doing like the thumbnails. Okay, let's think realistically how this would play out. If there's a healing goddess, would not everything always be healed?
Right.
And like, if that weren't the case, would then people not just be mad at her all the time? It's like, it's so logical. Like, it's not like, I did it opposite day because I'm crazy.
Right.
It's like very grounded in a way that's like, that actually makes sense. It makes sense.
Yes. And then we meet a new character named Brokeface. who is awesome. And another example of a Malazan character, an Erikson character that is like more interesting than what they seem, as we keep saying. But I love, so we meet Brokeface, this young girl. I think she gets a name at one point, but I can't remember what her name is. The chosen girl is like, you're not gonna like him. He hates horse. Don't ride your horse anywhere near him. He hates horses.
So kill your horse before he kills you.
Yeah,
because he hates
he
them.
will chop your horse into little bits. And Gnoz is like, not this horse. So they head toward the Grand Temple, and they have this conversation with the goddess Soliel through the girl, and Noto Bell is like, Boyle, excuse me, is like, I'll kill that guy if you want me to. Like, I know you're a goddess. If you want me to kill this jerk on the horse, I will totally do it.
Well,
and she's like, you moron! He's important. You know who that is.
Well, I love that. Gnoz is like, listen, I know you can hear me and you're chosen one.
Yeah.
These are the things. These are my terms. It's not a negotiation. These are just things you have to do. Peace. And he like heads towards the temple, and he's like, "You got it, Boyle." And then Boyle's like, "Listen, kid." And then like the voice of the goddess comes out and is like, shut up and keep up or you're lost, period. Yeah. And just takes off running. So I love that. It's like Gnu's talking to the kid and being like, sure, I guess maybe she'll, like, the goddess will hear and we'll find her at some point. But immediately this waif character having the goddess's voice, it's like, oh, Gnu knows a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, master of the deck, he knows a lot of things, and we don't really know the depths of that yet.
And the gods all know it. The gods are like, don't mess with that dude, which is pretty good. All right. So then Gnoz talks to Brokeface, and we realize why Brokeface has that name and hates horses, because a horse broke his face. Yes. It's not complicated this time. Yeah. It's pretty A to B, really. Yeah. And B stands for bite. So he, Gnoz is like, take me to Poliel, and Brokeface is like, your funeral, pal. Find me. I'll take you to her. And inside the temple, Tora Haval is having a real bad time. She's she's being destroyed by the plague. She's being destroyed because she is sort of becoming Poliel's, I don't know what.
Mortal. It's like the way they describe it is like her mortal lover. They basically pull everybody in the room and pick them out of a lineup, and she's like, I'm attracted to you today. And like, we see the moment where like she's grabbed, and it feels like she's physically pulled by some magical source. But then when Gnu shows up, he sees her over in the corner, and it's just plague basically spinning around her body, cascading around her body. And he even describes it almost like so close and so intense, like the caress of a lover, but just destroying her physically. Yeah.
And I love how Gnoz just like rides his horse into the room. He's like, hey, who's sick in here?
Oh, something that I also forgot to mention that I loved was to get into the city, they like walk through the wall.
Yeah.
And Gnoz walks through the wall, and then Boyle has to like guide his horse through the wall, and he's like, your horse is dumber than mine, I guess. Like, he's like, his horse wouldn't walk because there's a wall there. And then just again, Gnu's getting to this temple and then being like, do you want to get off your horse? He's like, nope. And he just like ducks so the horse can do it fine. And he's like, everything for the horse right now is funny. Yeah. Funny.
And Brokeface is like, that guy rode a horse in here. The one thing I hate more than anything else. Very funny. I love that line. He was like, can you feel her wrath, her outrage? And Brokeface is like, can you feel, Gnoz is like, can you feel mine? Pretty rad. So they have this confrontation. Poliel, who basically in my mind looks like 1998 Marilyn Manson, like full Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
And Poliel is like, oh, what are you doing in here? And Gno's like, I have an offering for you. I want to give you something. She's like, I like things. And he's like, here, have this. And he throws the shard of a totterall from his shattered
blade
dagger. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it lands like in her skin, like
I'm like, he threw that thing so hard, or she is so
she's just
soft.
bad at catching things.
Just made a pudding.
She's made a pudding.
Well, she said she
tracks.
puts her hand up to like be like, because he kind of like, I picture it again. Maybe I just had that sibling energy. I pictured him like, take it and like whipping it at her the same way a sibling would. So you'd be like, don't stop, rather than catching it. And when she's like, it's like into her little pudding palm, and then she's just like stuck with it. She's stuck with it, and it's a totterall, and so she loses all of her powers, like evacuating. Yeah. So she was described as like just effectively like a cloud of pestilence and disgustingness, blurred form like beneath everything, and then everything is suddenly gone, and then you just see her as like this, like very androgynous thing. Yeah. Now it's stuck with this magic that will just kill her eventually.
These elongated fingers, and very odd. And she's just like, I'm melting. Then we cut over to Quick Ben in the Shadow Warren, and he's like, oh, look, it's Shadow Throne sitting on a shadow throne.
Interesting.
And I love their interactions every time where he's like, you need to help me. He's like, I'm not helping you. I don't like you. I've never liked you. I'm not helping you. He's like, what if I owe you one? He's like, owe me one.
Well, he's like, you owe me one. I don't understand the terms of their agreement, because I was like, oh, he's going to be in debt to you.
I think it's the debt that he escaped in that other book. Remember, he
I do,
screwed him out of the original debt that he owed, and he like made him. I can't remember how it went down exactly, but it was. You remember when he confronted him, and he's like, "Ha ha! You agreed. I can't take backsies," and he left.
Yeah.
So now he's like, okay, I'll agree. And I don't think we know.
Well, he was like, you still have a debt for me. And he's like, if you let me claim my debt, I'll help you. And he's like, okay, I'll let you claim your debt
that he tricked him out of.
But then I don't
know
understand
the details of it.
But the part I don't understand is why he wouldn't just be like, okay, and then just like slice and dice him right there. Like, why does he then get to go like find his sister and actually be with her for a second? Like, why, if you are like this god, okay, so jumping ahead just a little bit so I can talk about the whole arc. He talks with Shadowthrone. He's like, okay, I'll let you collect the debt, which is like his life, as far as I can tell. It's Quick Ben's life.
I don't know if that's true. I think that's the presumption that may be.
Because he was a priest of Shadowthrone.
Right.
It's his life, not by way of necessarily killing him, but his life, and he is of servitude to him. He has to be with him. Like, he, as like his physical person, is important to him somehow. So he's like, okay, you could do it. And then Shadowthrone takes his scythe and slices all the threads that were holding it to the dagger.
Right.
We cut back to the freak out that happens in the desert. We can talk about in a sec. But then he goes to his sister in the space where she's like being...
The throne room.
The throne room.
Or the temple, I should say.
Where she's effectively now like dying from the plague.
Right.
Like so rapidly. And he saves her. But Shadowthrone sends dogs after him, as far as he can tell. And I'll leave it there. But like, if you're going to get him, why did you release him to go see his sister and then send the puppies after him? I don't understand those pieces.
Here's my take, and I could be completely wrong.
Okay.
My understanding is Quick Ben's like, hey, if you let me go save my sister, you can collect on your debt. And Shadowthrone is basically like, okay, I will collect on my debt at a time of my choosing. But I'm going to go let you do this. And Quick Ben's like, okay. But Shadowthrone is also a jerk who's like, you want to save your sister? Okay. Snap. You're in the plague room with all the plague people. Good luck with that. I gave you what you wanted. There she is, but now you're screwed. The hound side of it, and again, I could be completely wrong, but my read is that that's not Shadow Throne sending the hounds after him. Quick Ben thinks that's what is happening, but it's not right. That it's Gnos that caused the hounds to be there, who are in this battle with the Daragoth. And Gnos goes, I'm the one that made the hounds come here. And his whole plan was what exactly happens, which is the Daragoth come and kill Poliel.
But Dancer, okay, now I'm like stringing all of these scenes together now. Cotillion later, Shadow Throne's like, quick, Ben.
Yeah.
It's like escaped again kind of thing. And Cotillion's like, interesting, and is noticing wounds on the dogs. But it seemed because the dogs are now with them.
No, he's mad at the fact that the doggies got hurt, which is Absalar, which is why he's like, you did this, Cotillion. And Cotillion's like, I didn't do it. And the dogs are like, grr, yes, you did. And he's like, I didn't, because Absalar is still partly Cotillion.
Yes,
so basically, like, the essence of Cotillion did do this, and Cotillion's like, but it wasn't me.
I got that part, but I thought that Cotillion was noticing that the dogs were wounded, and the dogs were saying that he did this. But I thought that Shadow Throne was mad about Quick Ben.
Let's talk about when we get there, because maybe the cheat sheet will help me.
But there's so many pieces.
Yes.
Anyway,
but I think we stepped through it pretty accurately, but we'll get corrected if we're wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get as we get to it. Anyway, so we learned that also in the scene with Quick Ben and Shadow Throne, that like they're tied as brother and sister in some metaphysical way, and Torah Haval tried to disconnect, tried to like sever herself from her familial ties with him, and he prevented that, which I thought was interesting, that there's some sort of like magical connection between family in this universe, which I thought was a pretty neat detail.
I think it might have been the thing from the flashback where he had tied himself to her so that she would be the one who chases him down, because they have this tie. And then even when she tries to get him with his own toy, he knew that she would be the one to come get him, and he had put her like underpants in the thing so that she also hurt herself when she did it.
Such an awesome, like, total little brother thing to do. It's like, you used my underpants?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the threads are cut, as you said. Shadow Throne cuts the threads with his like scythe, and we cut back to Kalam and Bottle, and they're like, oh no. And Bottle's like, what's Absalar up to? And Kalam and Fiddler are like, oh, I know exactly what she's up to. Let's get her. And they bolt off. And then we have the moment of the hounds coming. The hounds are like rampaging through the camp, and Hurashel's like, oh, this is bad. But then there's bigger hounds coming after those. And I just absolutely love chapter 15. I read it so quickly. It was such a page turner for me. I felt like Erikson masterfully ramps up the tension and all these things and all these misunderstandings. You know, Kalam and Fiddler running after Absalar, and you go, no, she's not doing that. She's on there. She's not going to try to murder Quick Ben. And all these things just made me go like, I'm rushing through this. The scenes are like kind of going back and forth from outside the temple room, inside the temple room. We have Gnos doing this awesome thing where, Poliel is writhing. And, I'm melting. And he's like, mess with mortals and you pay. Which is like another thing I love about the Malazan universe is there's gods and there's mortals, but the power structure isn't always obvious, right?
Yep.
Gods can get screwed by mortals and often do. And it's pretty neat.
Yeah. Whether they're forgotten or pierced through with magic dispelling shards, either way.
Yeah. So Brokeface now sees it all come toppling down. The goddess that he worships is dying. His faith is dispelled. He's going to die. He knows it's all over for him. And bamf, Quick Ben appears. He grabs his sister. He's trying to pull her out. And the Daragoth are breaking through. It's like chaos everywhere. It's just an awesome amount of action and tension and on all these different fronts. And you're just bopping around through all of them. It feels like this freight train of, momentum.
Yeah, and good news sort of seeing through and who's actually evil or who should be getting out. And Quick Ben finds like an escape route, like an escape hatch behind the throne.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, is it Brokeface that he tells to go to him or the other guy?
Well, before that, Brokeface, is like the hounds pounce in. He's like, well, this is it for me. I'm going to die.
Oh yeah.
And Absalar's like slice on the poochies.
Yes.
And it's this amazing moment where Brokeface is like, "What? Why did you do that? I want to die." And she turns and looks at him with sorrow in her eyes, and she's like, "Go, be healed. Go to Soliel and be healed."
Yeah.
And it's this complete turning point for Brokeface.
Yeah.
Which is such a beautiful. Again, we say this all the time, but I absolutely adore how the tiniest characters who seem completely two-dimensional. I mean, his name is Brokeface. He's just an antagonist.
He's just a guy who hates horses because they bit his face, and now that's his name.
But even he gets this beautiful, redemptive moment to shine.
And then I forgot, like when Absalar shows up, all this chaos, her two little buddies, Tellerus and Curdle, hiss somehow and freeze them.
Yeah.
So the dogs freeze. They like cannot move, and
they're scared of the little skelly bones.
And then she's dancing around them.
Yeah.
Putting slices on their booties.
So rad.
And
so
with enough time for Quick Ben to get out.
That's right. And Brokeface runs over and helps Quick Ben pick up his sister. And it's like, oh, I love this. I love this so very much. And also the hounds run in, we get all the different hound names coming into the room. And the last one shows up with Jim in his mouth. Yeah. He brought him the whole way.
Look, a puppy dog finding his favorite chew toy. He's not letting it up.
I just love it.
He like brings a Jim in there, like spits him on the ground effectively.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I guess that's the end of that guy.
It's the end of the Jim. That's how that all played out. So funny.
But then the puppy dogs, I don't know if it's right this scene. Puppy dogs get out of there, and the Daragoth shows up and basically kills everything that's left, including Jim. They tear it to bits.
To Jim, Poliel, Daragoth are just zip ripped to shreds. So Gnoz kicks down the doors to the temple of Soliel, the healing temple, and he throws down a card, and he's like, Soliel, I'm the master of the deck. You get over here right now. And she shows up, and he's like, I got things you need to do. You have to heal some folks, empower other folks to heal some folks. These are my terms. Quick Ben and Brokeface show up. She's like, you heal that sister of his right now. And Gnoz is like, oh man, I really didn't realize how many of my friends are here.
Yeah. And then I don't know if it's like at the last moment of this chapter, but like you can hear, I don't know if you can hear it. Or they feel that the Daragoth is ripping those other things to shreds.
Yeah.
But the thing that Soliel drops that is like, is that again is like, who's good? Who's bad? Who knows? Right. Poliel, she goes, you fools. Like when like the only person out here who was actually trying to do anything to heal Burn was over there, and now she's dead. Congratulations.
Incredible. That, I mean, this is the running motif for this week. You're like, why would anybody even worship the god of plagues? Well, guess what? Erikson gives us the answer to that. Erikson gives us the answer to what motivates this god and what goodness is there in the plague goddess, which is I'm here to wipe out the plague of mortals. You guys are destroying this planet. And I'm here to, she's an environmentalist.
Yeah. Yep. And she describes it as like the way to heal burn is like you have to sort of cook the bad out, and it's when the fever breaks, the healing can start happening. But like we weren't even close to that, and now she's gone. Congrats, you've killed burn, basically.
Amazing. Giving a noble cause to the plague goddess, like the goddess of pestilence, is. You realize, oh my gosh, there is a nobility there. There is a relatable point.
Relatable point. Yeah, when we met her, she was being nasty and seemed like a sinister. She got a sinister attitude, but it's called being typecast, honey.
Yes.
Okay, she got good in her.
Everything in this world, everything. It's amazing how he's able to do that. I just am in awe of that holistic view of everything, It's special. Exactly what we were talking about in the pre-spoiler section. All right, so as Quick Ben's leaving, he's like, "Hey, Gnos, quick question. Can I trust your sister Tavor?" And he basically is like, "She's honorable. She'll be like the soldiers."
Well, she was like, he's like, "Can I trust your sister?" He's like, "She will do what needs to be done."
Yeah.
And it's like, for whom? It's like for her or the soldier. She's like, that's the same thing to her.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, that seems good, but it's still like the motivations of do what needs to be done to what end?
Yeah.
What needs to be done for whom? I think is still the outstanding question there.
Agreed. I also love that when Quickpen's like, "Oh, by the way, I'm leaving before my sister wakes up." And hey, Gnos, don't judge me. You know what it's like to have a crazy sister who doesn't like you very much.
You get it. You know a sister's wrath,
it's like,
bucko.
Got me.
Yeah.
Yeah, nailed. So Quickben bamps back into his body, and Bottle's like, your friends left. They're gonna go kill Absalar because they think she's gonna kill you. And he's like, misunderstandings.
Sorry.
And they run off. Ferdinand Sort shows up. She's like, "Hey, we got to march. Everybody's not well."
Everybody's not well, and she says like, we think we're gonna catch the 14th tonight. We think we're gonna get him.
Yes. So then we have that moment we talked about before where we cut back to Shadow Throne, and well, you're right. It does say here in the cheat sheet that Shadow Throne blames Cotillion for Quickben escaping.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. He shouldn't be able to escape, right? I don't know. How that works exactly.
Like if he said you could collect the debt, and he's like, at a time of my choosing, and I choose right now.
Yeah.
But then Quickben escapes, and I guess that was his one chance, and now he has to make a new deal. Like I don't understand how that deal works.
Yes, I'm sure we'll find out more about that.
Yeah, and he blames Cotillion because the dogs have stabs in them, which tells me he did send the dogs, and then he thought Cotillion stopped him for some reason.
All right, maybe you're right. As usual. So then we have this scene where Gnos comes back with Nato Boyle, and they go back to the tent, and they're told by Captain Sweet Creek that Dujek died. Dujek is dead.
2 bells ago.
2 bells ago.
Yeah.
And also, he wrote in his last will and testament, give the army to Gnos.
Well, he wrote, first of all, that's not Captain Kindly. It's Gnos, okay?
Yeah.
Army's his. And so, like, we all know you're not kindly now.
Yeah. Yeah. So he becomes High Fist. Gnos, High Fist.
Crazy.
Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Which makes Gnos realize, oh, that's what Poliel was talking about when she says, or no, Soliel, who said, I leave the suffering to you.
Yeah. He was saying that she already knew. She knew why he was here to heal Dujek.
And she knew that Dujek was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a bummer.
Total bummer. But I think a very cool, unexpected fate for Dujek,
Yeah.
and repercussions to come. But that's chapter 15. We just did an hour on chapter 15. Chapter 16. Back with the army, Keneb, Nether, Adjunct Tavor, they're figuring it all out. They're like, we got to move. We got to, the supplies are running out. We got to go find somewhere to resupply. There's a lot of logistical talk that I don't think is super necessary to step right through.
Well, the one thing is that they are, Tavor has been keeping from the army the fact that the plague is around. So they've been taking crazy journeys.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're going to go back to Unta.
Yeah. There's nowhere to go that's not through plague lands.
And so she's like, we're going to get on the boats and sail around. And they're like, but even if we go directly, she's like, we're not going to go directly. We're going to take the longest way home. And all to like avoid knowing about the plague, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. So then we have this moment where Grub walks up to Keneb and is like, you got to wait 3 days. And he's like, what? Don't leave. It's 3 days or everyone dies. Anyway, off to find shells.
Yeah, I like that he'll like say stuff and then he'll be, oh, cool, my dog, and like run away. He's still like
everyone
a kid.
dies in 3 days. All right, off to play Jacks.
Yeah,
have you seen my marbles? Sorry. He
but
does feel like a 1950s kid.
But like, yeah, in the papes, you're famous. He's like, I feel like this is the first time that it hasn't been like Grub has been direct enough that he's not like, what a weird kiddo. He's like, oh, everybody dies in 3 days.
He's like,
he seemed to know our like path through the seas.
Yeah.
Maybe this is meaningful. And so he actually takes action because of it. It was like, oh, finally.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to listen to that crazy kid. So then we head over back to Barathol and Crocus and Solara, who are preparing to take Heboric's mummified body and complete the quest that he set out on, which is let's bring it back to the Jade statue.
Bring it back to the Jade statue. And there is like, I think it's Solara. Somebody's like, does he think he's going to like come back? And they're like, oh, no. There's no way he's coming back. He's mummifying quick.
Yeah.
And I love the description of like, oh, well, yeah, we put these salt rags to like draw the water out of him, like shoved in the back of his throat and shoved a bunch of other places too. But the interesting detail is his hands are now solid jade.
Yeah.
Which is just very interesting. It's like, oh, that's how he's becoming mummified. And I'm like, well, isn't there a giant jade hand in the...
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was attached to somebody real.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm not sure it's a bad idea to bring him back, but we'll find out. And Solara's like, what are we going to do after that? And Crook is like, I don't know. I'll go back to, I miss Darujistan. I miss alleys and rooftops. She's like, you're a thief. He's like, well, I didn't say that. He's like, you could meet some of my friends, Murillo and Cole. They're great. And she's like, all right. And then Barathal's like, you ever heard of a lamb being led to slaughter? Which is, I think he says that Crocus is the lamb, right?
Yeah, I think it's because Solara's like kind of like pushing him, roasting him a little bit. He really felt like Crocus in this moment where he's like, what are we going to, like, there's been times where he seems like very serious and smart, and on it in this case, it's like, what are you going to do? He's like, oh, I really like my buddies back in Darujistan. And like, he just turns back into like a Crocusy in such a way that like things kind of go over his head a lot. And I think it was one of those moments where something went over his head, and Solara's like, wasn't she like plying him like, what, dude, let's not even take the body back. Let's just go. You can show me. That sounds great. Blue fire, so cool. And it seemed like Solara sort of has him in like
exactly. Like she is manipulating him.
Yes.
And she's more savvy and sort of more ruthless in her thought process than he is. And she's like, kind of using her charm to manipulate him. That was my take, at least. I think but there's also this sad little Char character who's this sort of, man-child who's this lovely moment where he's like, I'll come with you. And Berthol's like, oh, you don't even have any shoes, dude. And so Solar's like, I can make some, but like it's going to take a day.
Mhm.
And Berthol's like, all right, I'm riding the horse. You take my boots.
Well,
It's like, oh, my heart.
it's so sweet because they're like, they've already left. They're like on the
Yeah.
road. And then
Yeah.
they're like, somebody's following us. And it's
Yeah.
Char is like carrying all of his belongings because he doesn't have a horse, doesn't have shoes. The sand is scalding hot.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
All right. Then we pop back over to Ganath, who has found the Kachin Shamal Sky Keep.
This is the place.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, this is well, like the hole where it was. I don't know if she found the keep, but she was like, this is where my ritual was, and it was broken. And she's like, yeah, they're definitely back. It's not the long tails, it is the short tails. Seems bad. And then she gets sliced.
She gets ripped to shreds.
Yeah. And she's like,
I think there's some short tails.
She's like, short tails. I wish Ganus were here. Slice.
Yeah. So I think that's the end of Ganath.
Yeah, that seemed pretty definitive.
Also, it's ominous in that the Kachin Shamal short tails are back.
Yes.
And then we pop over to one of my favorite mental images in this novel so far, which is Iskarl Pust has a monkey boat. He's got a monkey boat. He's got a boat that's crewed by monkeys. It's the Baccaral sea, and the description of just like the absolute chaos of this boat.
So funny.
So funny.
The whole thing is so ridiculous of them. Like finds them so obnoxious, but they are trying to like serve him. They're
he
like
hates them, and they think he's their god.
It's so amazing. And then he's like so frustrated. He talks about him like pulling the last wisps of his hair, and then all of them being like mimicking him doing that as they're walking.
That's what our god says to do.
It's so
I love
funny.
Mappo's perspective where he's like, there is no universe where this boat should be working at all with this crew, and yet here we are. We're sailing along, and then somehow the monkeys are
boat's
doing it.
out there, but they even send like the raft to come get them that they're like rowing.
It is so delightful in my imagination.
Yeah,
this like goofy, almost animated Disney film chaos of Iskarl Pust and his wacky band of vampire monkeys, or whatever they are, the Baccaral. So delightful, such a wonderful, zany,
I picture them being so small. Like I picture them being like, well, I think they're called like mustard monkeys.
Yes, me too.
And so just like how many
like
of them,
monkeys. Yeah.
Yes, how many of them there must be to try and make a boat work.
It's so that funny. Like 1,000 monkeys with 1,000 typewriters, but it's a boat instead. Yeah. It's so funny, so good. And then we have this. Spite is there still. Obviously, they Mappo and Spite and Iskarl Pust, and they have this incredible philosophical discussion, which I had to stop myself from making the entire chapter my quote. I do have some of it, but
I do.
Maybe you do too. It is so good. No, we can both. It is so good. It is so beautiful. It is so interesting. We'll get to it at the end of the show, but it's this incredible. She does this metaphor about these two kingdoms. She talks about the gods and worshiping gods and what that means, and it is just spectacular writing.
But doesn't she also then bring up like the piece that I would pull from it? I fully agree with you. Spectacular. Love the whole segment. She talks about also worshiping machinery and like the godless ones.
Right.
And she calls
which is the Kachin Shamal. Yeah, right.
Especially the short tails, and that they don't worship gods anymore. They have machines now, which I thought was very interesting because we have one other person in the book who's like a known sort of machinist. And yes, she's like a witch too, or maybe not. But Samar Dev came to mind when she's like, like as a thread to like start that kind of machine worshiping within mortals or humans.
It also makes me think, I don't know if this was the inspiration point for Erikson and Esselmont when they were conceiving of this universe, but I find the notion that, if you think of the Kachin Shamali as, which I kind of always have, but I don't even know if I've ever brought this up, but I've always thought of them as like, what if dinosaurs didn't go extinct?
Yeah.
Right? What if dinosaurs were on the planet? There's no extinction event. They evolved to a point of sentience and intelligence, but also now we know that they not only just kind of evolved to that level, but what if dinosaurs evolved past humans and are now like the technological, godless, atheistic, kind of uber culture.
Like in like if it's like sci-fi, they're the people with like the better technology, the better ship, and you're like, whoa, but they've still got knives for hands, so they seem pretty sinister.
It's such a neat sort of meta concept, I think, that I find really compelling. Anyway, Spite also talks about Icarium as being the secret weapon, right?
Yes.
The secret weapon of mass destruction that everybody is vying for, and that maybe the Nameless Ones are going to unleash to sort of end this conflict. He's the God Killer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty intense notion. Then we cut back to characters genuinely surprised to see again. Our little painter and toad duo.
I know. But they were painting Dujak's host before, or they're painting the chain of dogs before?
I can't remember.
I think it was the chain of dogs.
But they are the sort of imperial record keepers, right? The imperial painters of note.
The court painters or whatever. Yeah.
They're going to record the most important events of the day. But it's such a wonderful, and it feels very wink wink nudge nudge from Erikson, that like the artist has to be with a critic the whole time. Like chef's kiss, Erikson. Chef's kiss.
So good.
And just that their little back and forth and arguing about, and the description of the paints and how disgusting the paints are and all that stuff. It's so good.
And like how disgusting, like he is, like just like a critic of everything. It's not like, your composition is off. He's like, look at you, you're covered in stains. You eat the paint. The paint's everywhere. It's on your clothes. It's on you. And he's like, okay, you're disgusting. I can get where your imagination is going with how disgusting you think I am. It's like great banter. Great banter.
The entire dynamic of an inescapable critic for every artist. Beautiful. Just beautiful. All right. So then Ganoz is like getting into the high fist armor. He's like, I feel like I got imposter syndrome. And he's like, maybe Dujek wanted to elevate someone else from House Perrin because that would give Tavor more legitimacy in people's eyes. And he's like, I'm not doing this. I don't care what people think of me. I'm not wearing this dumb armor.
What? Yeah, they said maybe elevate another from House Perrin, but somebody pointed out specifically, like, do you realize like the two siblings, like one family, owns all of the armies right now.
The armies are commanded by siblings, which is a neat place that we've arrived at.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ganoz is like, I'm going to go, anybody know where that painter is? I'm going to go have them make a new deck of dragons. And I was like,
I love that he's like, has anybody seen the painter? Also, are they good?
Yeah. He's like, good is a strong word for what he is.
They're like, there's debate about it. Or, sorry, at least there's like a critic that's always there roasting him, so we can't tell.
We can't tell. So back to Smardev and Karsa Orlong, who we haven't seen in a minute, and Boatfinder, and they find the body of another Anabar tribes person, Stonefinder. To which I went, man, that's got to be a rough naming situation. It's like You got to find something that literally no one else has found yet in order to have a name.
I'm bug finder.
No. There's a bug finder right over there.
I'm insect finder specifically.
Does somebody call insect finder? Ah, dang it!
Yeah, everybody calling dibs. I'm sky finder. I found it. Found it. Rock finder.
I'm that squishy thing inside of my nose finder. All right, fair enough. Nobody's found that yet, except you. Anyway, so Karsa is on the warpath, ready to avenge the Anabar, and Samar's like, I'm not sure this is a good idea, but he runs off and starts just slaughtering Tistidur by the dozens in a really well described fight scene.
So great.
Ugh.
I love that it's starting like in like the jungle and Samar just trying to sprint to keep up. No chance. And she's like, just sounds of killing are happening.
Yeah.
They're over there. They're over there. They're over there. Like is bopping around and come into effectively like the clearing where they've made camp. And it's like, oh, there's 50 of them. Did they say 50?
Yeah, 50.
Tistidur, which what we know having spent time with the Tistidur is like pretty
formidable.
Intense.
Yeah. Formidable.
And then, but still nothing at
Well, I
Karsa.
love the part where we're in her perspective, right? And she's like, oh, but there's too many of them. And then like the sword comes out from this heap of attacking bodies and it's just like tears through. She's like, oh no, there's too many of them. They like gang pile on him and he's just like ripping out like, nope, no problem, Karsa Orlong.
I love the description of like the spears coming in and only hitting his shadow or whatever. Yeah. It's just like, he's too quick. He's too big.
So sick. And there's also magic. Now, there's something the cheat sheet tells me that I did not put together, but maybe you are smarter than me. Undoubtedly you are. But the person who's sitting casting spells from the canoes, my cheat sheet says is Feather Witch. Did you get that?
Is Feather Witch blonde?
I guess.
I do not. The way that I did not get it that it was Feather Witch. I was trying to think of who the person casting spells could be, but I do not, in my memory, I don't remember what Feather Witch being described as blonde. But that doesn't mean anything other than I didn't remember that.
It's written here like it's obvious, like Feather Witch is over there and she's casting spells, and I'm like,
I will say the description of the woman was so specific that it felt like it was a moment where I was like, this should be obvious. It's either should be obvious to me now or is going to be obvious to me in a second.
It is cool, I think, that we are now encountering these people we spent an entire novel with, but we're countering them from a different point of view. It's really cool.
But it's also like Feather Witch, like her existence in the camps. What's her face at the time was like, Saren was like, can't be the same Feather Witch. That Feather Witch was old. And now we're years after all those events.
Right.
Don't know like the relationship of time necessarily. And here Feather Witch is still. And I think that somebody in the comments is going to be like, we absolutely know the time. I don't know how far it's been. So the fact that Feather Witch is here is cool.
Yeah. Well, they managed to get themselves an interpreter because
double interpretation.
What's that?
Double interpretation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The Taxilian, which is a cool name. And again, the cheat sheet is telling me that is named because there is a city on the map directly north of Ygatan called Taxila. So the Taxilian is a reference to that. Basically, Samara is desperately trying to bluff her way into a peaceful resolution to this because she's like, hey, Karsa, you can kill these guys all day long, but they're going to keep coming. And at a certain point, there's going to be too many of them for you to kill. And Karsa's like, I beg to differ. And she's like, well, let me try to just negotiate. And she's like, hey, everybody, this guy is one of many that are coming. You see how badass he is. There's a bunch like him, and they're all on their way here. So unless you stop with the Anabar stuff, I love how calm they are. Kill as many of them. What?
I love how calm they are in the face of it. They're like, interesting. So it's revenge for this. Has he had enough revenge? And Karsa's like,
is he done with the
"No."
revenge? And Karsa's like, nope. And they're like, duly
Okay.
noted. Okay, all
Interesting.
right. We'll just note that down. Not enough revenge.
So to be clear, does he want like a bunch more revenge? Like, what if we just left? Is that okay? Like, just like the sense from him, they can tell what he's saying in response is great.
So good.
But one of the things that is interesting is they're like this Tarthanol, and she's like this Toblakai, and they're like, huh.
Yeah.
And there's a moment there where they switch out the word Tarthanol for Toblakai because she said it, and then they only say it. And every single time I kind of get the idea that like, oh, this Toblakai.
Yeah, totally.
Which means something more to them. And I don't know if that's them just getting that translation. So you could see some things that we started picking up while we were reading that book anyway. The one with all
Midnight
the
Tides?
Midnight Tides.
Yeah.
Or reading Midnight Tides, that like some words were
Yes, right.
So I don't know if this is just showing that very directly, or if there's more meaning there than I'm reading too much into it.
No, I definitely think that was a point to be made, that they were making that connection of Tarthanol and Toblakai. But then and there's also this moment where the word Preda, which we had seen, it became very commonplace in Midnight Tides, is also has its lineage in the First Empire.
Yes.
Which I thought was really a cool thing to point out as well. And then the Predator's like, okay, well, so you're not done with revenge. You're going to murder all of us. Here's an idea. What if
you really want to do murder?
Yeah, if you really want to stop all of this, our emperor like loves one-on-one combat. It's like his thing. He'll do it with literally anybody. Why don't you go and have one-on-one combat? Our emperor, winner takes all, loser dies. And Karsa's like, yes, that is so my jam.
Karsa's like, I just want to be really clear. They're asking me to kill their emperor.
Yeah.
I love like the idea. It's not like, hey, they're asking me to fight their emperor. They're asking. They want me to come kill him.
Yeah,
I accept.
Which it's Roulade, right?
It's Roulade.
Who can't be killed. This is gonna be good.
What if that he is killed by an autotral man?
That's a good question. Very good question. We just saw what Autotral did to Poliel. So
well, and the reason Featherwitch's magic wasn't working on him is because he's all, what is it? The blood sap, the blood tree.
Yeah.
He's all blood.
Autotral. Yeah, he's
Autotral.
born of the Autotral. Yes. Oh, but man, as soon as I realized that, I was like, oh, the entire previous book was a setup for this moment.
Woo!
So awesome. So awesome. All right, then we cut back to Keneb and Pores, and everybody's pissed. Like, we haven't left yet? What is taking so long?
Interesting for Keneb to now reveal he's incompetent now.
Yes. And Keneb's just like, we can't leave yet. It's not 3 days yet.
I also just love that he's like, I'm just going to make a call to make this happen, rather than be like, Grub has had a premonition. We should stay. I guess
nobody's going to believe
like,
the goofy kid.
The kid who's collecting shells. Yeah. No, we're getting on the boats. I guess you're right. But
I love it. But because they waited, they see the approaching Malazan 14th. Is the 14th the one?
Yeah, no, they're the 14th.
They're the 14th.
They are
fifth. And incredible moment for me when I was reading it. Just the way it happens, people kind of seeing it. Oh my gosh, I recognize the people in the front of oh my gosh, it's all of them. They're all here. And then, I think isn't it Keneb who's like riding the horse and be like, they need water. They're thirsty.
They're like taking horses away, and they're like, and this one's Tavor's horse, and he's like, I'll take that one. And they're like, sorry, Tavor's horse. And he's like, thank you. Grabs a horse and like rides off, and Tavor is just like always so cold.
Yeah,
being like, I guess I'm walking. And then they walk, and he comes tearing by, being like, water.
They need water.
And then she's like, that was your horse? And she's like, yes, it was. Just like, keeps on, keep it on.
Yeah.
They all show up. The description of them, like, we knew that they were like going through it in the desert, but like so covered in dust. They're like, they must be ghosts. What else could they be? They must be ghosts. They look like ghosts. And so when they talk, their mouths crack open, and like, so not only is it like literally their skin is cracking and bleeding, but like just the inside of their mouth is so vibrantly, like violently red compared to the dust that's coating them. Their clothes are all tattered, and they're like,
Fiddler smiles and it rips his lips open. Ugh.
It's horrible. Like, I don't know if it gets that like dry in Colorado in the winter, but in Edmonton, that's what it's like.
Oh yeah.
It's like, man,
chapstick at the ready.
If you are not lubing that up before you're going outside, I know that feeling. I hate that feeling.
Kneb is like, any chapstick?
Yeah.
Lip balm.
Vaseline. But they get there, and Faradan is immediately like, I get why you would call me a deserter. Please don't call Sin a deserter or any of these people deserters. Sin knew it was up. It was my choice. Put it on me. And she's like, as if, welcome back, soldiers, basically.
Well, no, Fiddler's like, hey, if you are going to hang her for desertion, you better hang all of us, because she saved our patoots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool. And they're like, yeah, what did you do? Well, we hunted.
We dove into the bones of the city. We picked through the graves, and Faradan dug us out of the graves that we were buried in. And they're like, bone hunting, I see.
I was like, it's happening.
Yo.
The coolest thing, nobody knows this, but we off camera, maybe 3 or 4 weeks now, we've been like, we don't even know what the bone hunters are yet. We're like 60% through this book, and there's no bone hunters yet. They were there the whole time.
They're the bone hunters, but also like the way that is said is that they are like, we're the bone hunters. To me, it's like we're the bridge burners.
Yes.
This is like their new
we're the bone hunters now.
Identity.
Yes.
Like
they've been through the fire and the flame, and they came out reborn as the bone hunters. And coolest title reveal in the series so far, by far.
Yep, absolutely. Ooh, it's
just killer.
So sick.
Yes.
So sick. And what a great end to the chapter. It's like,
and then you turn the page and it says book 4, the bone hunters. I was like,
it's one of those moments where it's like, thank you for the chapter separation, the chapter breakdown, the community. You killed it with like these moments that we get to end on so juicy.
The rhythm of our read is all in thanks to the fine folks in our Discord who are setting that out for us. Our Sherpas through this. It's just been so wonderful and so satisfying. And yeah, this was like the perfect crescendo. Awesome. So awesome.
Yeah. The best.
Incredible. 2 incredible chapters, I thought. And we're already running long, but I got 3 kind of longish sections, but maybe we'll have some overlap. So maybe that'll help.
Yeah. I'll start with my long section, because I'm positive we'll have overlap about my other long sections, but I'm not positive about this one. Okay. I made a call from like last week. Oh God. The epigraph.
Epigraph. No, epitaph.
It's graph. Taff.
Graph.
This is the
epigraph.
The comment that got me was the one that sounds like a sick metal band is the one that's for the tombstone, and the one that sounds nerdy is a graph. Okay. It's for a book.
Yeah, epigraph.
Epigraph.
Why is that so hard for us to
I don't know.
Get? It's like stalactite, stalagmite. You know? It's
like such a fool, but we're getting it. We'll know a year from now. It will be
by the time
solid.
we finish book 10, we'll be so good on these. Epigraph.
The whole thing from chapter 15, if you don't mind, I will like to read, because I love it. I love it. Sorry. An old man past soldiering, his rivets green, his eyes rimmed in rust, stood as if heaved awake from slaughter's pit, back cut from broken flight, when young blades chased him from the field. He looks like a promise only fools could dream, unfurled, The banners of glory gesticulating in the wind over his head, stripped like ghosts, skulls stove in, lips flapping, their open mouths mute. "Oh, hearken to me," cries he atop his imagined summit, "and I shall speak of riches and rewards, of my greatness, my face once young like these I see before me. Hearken! While here I sit at the top whose table, grease-fingered with skewered meat, cracked goblet pearled in the hot sun, the wine watered to make the alliance of thin and thick, both passing palatable. As near as an arm's reach from this rabbler, this raveling trumpeter who once might have stood shield-locked at my side, red-hued, masked, drunk, coarse with fear in the moment before he broke and ran. And now he would call a new generation to war, to battle clamor. And why? Well, why? All because he once ran. But listen, a soldier who ran once ever runs. And this, honored magistrate, is the reason, the sole reason, I say, for my knife finding his back. He was a soldier whose words heaved me awake.
So beautiful. And I think this is something that Erikson has returned to book after book after book, this like the burden of the generational warring, like soldiers passing down that need to battle, and that it is, I think, beautifully illustrated in that poem.
But then the honor, like the sense of, hey, you did this. I can never trust you again. And I resent you so strongly for it. Yeah. I killed you.
That's all the reason I need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So good. All right. This is Torah Haval Dalat musing about gods. There had been plenty of altars before which she had knelt over the years, and from them, one and all, Torah Haval Dalat had discovered something she now held to be true. All that is worshipped is but a reflection of the worshipper. A single god, no matter how benign, is tortured into a multitude of masks, each shaped by the secret desires, hungers, fears, and joys of the individual mortal, who plays but a game of obsequious approbation. Believers lunged into belief, the faithful drowned in their faith. And there was another truth, one that seemed on the surface to contradict the first one. The gentler and kinder the god, the more harsh and cruel its worshippers. For they hold to their conviction with taut certainty, febrile in its extremity, and so cannot abide dissenters. They will kill, they will torture in that God's name, and see in themselves no conflict, no matter how bloodstained their hands.
That was my next quote as well. Ugh.
Baller.
This is like one of those quotes, thinking back to the non-spoiler topic, that I'm like, that puts words to real feelings.
Yeah.
Real world feelings. Love it. Love it. I've got a very short one here.
Okay.
And then I know I have two giant sections from the next one, but you're better at reading them. So
that's not true.
The chapter 16. What is this? Let me click through to it. This is a part of that conversation with Mappo. But the only line I pulled from this is, when wealth ascends to a point where the majority of the poor finally comprehend that it is, for each of them, unattainable, then all civility collapses and anarchy prevails.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that might be inside one of mine, but I mean, this whole section is like, we could read this whole section justifiably. But this is a large portion of it. She had wondered, briefly, if the absence of regret or sorrow within her at the surrendering of the child she had carried inside all those months was truly indicative of some essential lack of morality in her soul. Oh, this is
Solara.
Solara, yeah. Some kind of flaw that would bring horror into the eyes of mothers, grandmothers, and even little girls as they looked upon her. But such thoughts had not lasted long. The truth of the matter was she didn't care what other people thought. And if most of them saw that as a threat to whatever, to their view on how things should be, well, that was just too bad, wasn't it? As if her very existence could lure others into a life of acts without consequence. Now, that's a laugh, isn't it? The most deadly seducers are the ones encouraging conformity. If you can only feel safe when everybody else feels, thinks, and looks the same as you, then you're a hood-damned coward, not to mention a vicious tyrant in the making.
I love that. I feel like I have like no valuable commentary. Like when you just read it and I just listen, I'm like, it's good.
It says it the best.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to add.
Uh-huh.
It said it. Yeah. Yeah.
So my next quote, I don't have a meeting for another 45 minutes, so I have time to do a couple more quotes if you
Excellent.
want to.
Yes, let's do it.
I want to be like, I have a quote that I pulled about motivations. This is between Spite and Mappo.
Yeah.
And then I have one about we are not gods. Are either of yours those your quotes?
Mine is the inequity one, and then the one that ends with the quote that you said about when wealth ascends. But I want to read the whole thing that goes up to about fanaticism. So fanaticism and inequity are my two, but you can read whichever ones you want, and we can make it work.
Okay, I'm gonna read this. I don't know if this one is fanaticism. The kingdom upriver, downriver. That's the one.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't pick that. So do it. Yeah,
okay, great. Okay. There's two little tiny. No, I'm starting here. Okay,
let's do the whole thing. It's so good.
Sorry. Such is war among the gods, Trell. We are not gods. We are their hands, their feet, wayward and willful. We fight for reasons that are, for the most part, essentially nonsensical, even when the justification seems plain and straightforward. Two kingdoms, one upriver, one downriver. The kingdom downriver sees the water arrive, befouled and sickly, filled with silts and sewage. The kingdom upriver, being on higher land, sees its desperate efforts at irrigation failing as the topsoil is swept away each time the rains come to the highlands beyond. The two kingdoms quarrel until there is war. The downriver kingdom marches. Terrible battles are fought. Cities are burned to the ground. Citizens enslaved. Fields salted and made barren. Ditches and dikes are broken. In the end, only the downriver kingdom remains. But the erosion does not cease. Indeed, now that there's no irrigation occurring upriver, the waters rush down in full flood, distempered and wild, and they carry lime and salt that settles on the fields and poisons the remaining soil. There is starvation, disease, and the desert closes in on all sides. The once victorious leaders are cast down, estates are looted, brigands rove unchecked, and within a single generation there are no kingdoms, neither upriver nor downriver. Was the justification valid? Of course. Did that validity defend the victors against their own annihilation? Of course not.
It's another example of why I think Erikson and Esselman are like uniquely qualified to express this story. Yes. You know, like their sort of perspective as people who have studied civilizations, you know, archaeology, and it's just like that perspective is just,
it's so grounding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So this is long, but I just love it. Fanaticism breeds fanaticism. Mappo said, nodding. In proclamation, one defines his enemy for his enemy. That sentence alone is just spectacular and is so, it describes our current American political system.
Yes.
To a T. She smiled her dazzling smile. A quote from whom? Kellenved, the founding emperor of the Malazan Empire. Indeed, you grasp the essence of my meaning. Now the nature of fanaticism can be likened to that of a tree. Many branches, but one taproot. Inequity. Or at least the comprehension of and faith in whatever such inequity is, but imagined or exists in truth. More often than not, of course, such inequity does exist, and it is the poison that breeds the darkest fruit. Mundane wealth is usually built upon bones, piled high and packed deep. Alas, the holders of that wealth misapprehend the nature of their reward, and so are often blithely indifferent in their ostentatious display of their wealth. The misapprehension is this, that those who do not possess wealth all yearn to, and so seek likeness. And this yearning occludes all feelings of resentment, exploitation, and, most relevantly, injustice. To some extent they are right, but mostly they are woefully wrong. When wealth ascends to a point where the majority of the poor finally comprehend what it is for each of them unattainable, or that it is for each of them unattainable, then all civility collapses and anarchy prevails. Just like, describe the beginning of the 21st century in a paragraph, please.
It feels like, hey, I'm going to write an essay about the world.
Yeah.
And then be like, and here's some fantasy names.
But that's what's so beautiful. And this is kind of what Alex said in his question this week for our non-spoiler section, is that's what's so beautiful about science fiction and fantasy. Genre writing can be this window into understanding the real world. And
it gives you objectivity.
Yeah.
You know, when you can look at something over there, and it's just the skill that we need to employ is being able to draw the parallels. So I can look at somebody learning a lesson. I've had so many conversations recently about Star Trek. I can see the things that are supposed to be these great values of this more beautiful future for Earth, and be like, and see how the lessons that they're dealing with in this can actually be things that we can fix now.
Yeah.
And that was a show from the 80s or whatever. It's like, come on.
60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one more if you'll allow me. It's not super long.
Will allow it.
I know we're super long this week, but I can't help myself.
Mm-hmm.
This is more of their discussion. Are you sure? Even if inequity in triggering his violence then ascends, crossing no obvious threshold into all-destroying annihilation, Mapotrel, I believe motivations prove ultimately irrelevant. Slaughter is slaughter. Upon either side of the battlefield, the face grins with blunt stupidity, even as smoke fills the sky from horizon to horizon, even as crops wither and die, even as sweet land turns to salt. Inequity ends, Trell, when no one and no thing is left standing.
That was my last quote that I wasn't
going to read. I'm sorry, I stole it from you.
No, I wasn't going to read it. I was like, moving on.
So good.
Well said. Well written.
What a treat.
What a book.
What a delight. Thanks, folks, for hanging out with us. 2 more chapters next week. Trucking along. We know what the Bonehunters is now.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages, it's sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with the